The most important piece of hardware you're going to be using is the computer. And it might be good to just step back a little bit and talk about what is the computer. You've been using computers all your lives probably. And let's just talk about what exactly a computer is. Okay, let's a little quiz here. Which is the computer? Okay, obviously, this is a trick question. They're all computers. Okay, the computers, there are little computer chips in all of these devices. And as time goes on and computers get less and less expensive and smaller, we're going to see computers everywhere in all sorts of different devices that don't currently have them. It's going to be really amazing. But for our purposes, the computer we're most interested in is the one in the upper left, okay, that laptop. Now, what is a computer? Basically, it's a programmable device, meaning that you can program it to do different things. And basically what you want it to do is to process data, okay? A computer is a programmable device that processes data. And what is data? Data can be a lot of different things: text, numbers, images, sounds, or videos. All of those are data. And that's nice, but it's better to have information. That's data presented in a meaningful way that can help us do and see certain things. Okay, the computer system is made up of two parts, okay, the hardware and the software. Hardware, of course, is the physical components, and those are the things, again, we can see, we can touch and feel and lift up. Software is the programs, and yes, they're often on disk, but software is not something that we can really touch, and we'll talk about that more next time. What does a computer do? Real important, okay? The computer does basically four basic functions. Number one is it takes data in. Okay, it inputs data, and then, of course, it outputs the data. Okay, so those are the two really important ones. And then there's also, it can process the data. It can take the data and process it and make certain decisions about it and do certain things with it. And then it can also store the data for later use. Okay, so the four computer functions: input, process, storage, and output. Right? And if we were to diagram it, it would look like this. The input comes in. It gets stored temporarily in the main memory or RAM. The processor can access it and do things with it. And then it can store the data if it wants to. And then, of course, if the user needs it, it can output it for the user. Okay, and hopefully the data that goes in is just data, but when it comes out, it's information that we can use to make decisions. Okay, now what kinds of computers are there? There's all sorts of different types. There's supercomputers, mainframes, servers, desktops, laptops, tablets, smartphones, okay, and a whole bunch of different ones. And the ones that we are focused here in this class on are the desktops and laptops. Those are the two. As time goes on, we may look at tablets and smartphones, but right now we're just looking at desktops and laptops. Now, we could just take a look at a supercomputer. This is one here, the Titan supercomputer, which is huge. And it's a really, really incredibly fast computer. It's designed for doing things like predicting the weather or tracking satellites and making sure they're in the right orbits. It's just an incredible amount of calculations in a small amount of time. And this one here is actually kind of small. It's been replaced. Look at that. Look at the size of that. It's been replaced by something called the Frontier supercomputer, which is 50 times faster. And it takes up 2 basketball courts. Incredibly large things. Now, if you want to get really large, we could look at these server farms. All of the big companies like Facebook and Google and Twitter and all these companies have these around the West Coast and their interior parts of the U.S., these huge facilities, and inside them are hundreds of thousands of computers all linked together. And for example, when we go on Instagram and we want to look at a particular picture, well, we're going to be accessing one of those little computers there and getting the information. And these things are just incredibly large, and they use up a lot of electrical power. Usually they're placed close to a hydroelectric dam so that they get power as cheap as possible. Anyway, they're just incredibly big and stuff. So I just want to show you what that thing looks like. Okay, now, of course, we're going to be using much more modest resources here. We've got desktops and laptops. And when I first started teaching this course, almost everybody had desktops at home. Now, of course, almost everybody has laptops at home. So things have switched over, and it's great. And the laptops are pretty good now. They're very powerful, and they can do pretty much anything that a desktop can do, except the screens are a little bit smaller. And the next wave of computers, I think we're going to see things like the tablets are getting more and more powerful. Of course, they're smaller, they're lighter, and they're getting pretty good. So I think at some point we may be teaching this course, and half the students will have these things, have these tablets instead of a traditional portable or a desktop. Here we go. Okay, so a review again. It's the 4 computer functions are basically input, process, storage, and output, right? And the many types of computers, these are all different types of computers. Okay, and of course, we are focused in this class on the 2 most important ones, desktops and laptops. Okay, real good.